Yes, it's Friday, guys. Hello and welcome live on the All for United YouTube channel, exclusively for you out there right now. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching live from this very second, smash that like button, get involved with the show. So lucky to have John on with us today discussing how Twitter reacted to last night's game. I love this show. The day after a game, we get to jump in, see how people have reacted on Twitter to what they saw during the match and also after the match, and we'll react to them. It's quite a nice format. It allows us to hit on a few different talking points. But first of all, as ever, John, I'll get into my bit in a second, but let's go over to you. Just your thoughts the day after what happened yesterday evening.
Oh, the day after the night before. It's always a difficult one. Now, I find that, we as a team didn't perform to the best of our ability, especially the fact that, you go out and beat probably the best team in Europe with Manchester City and then come to the next game and look like, sheep that don't know how to string a couple of passes together. Confidence maybe, or it should have been higher really, but it's a difficult one because emotions run high when it comes to football, comes to Twitter, it comes to, like last night, I was devastated. In a bit of a better stead right now for the time being, should we say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. For me, last night, I had a moment of reflection and I sort of said to myself, look, you're drawing against an AC Milan team. Yes, that had a lot of injuries, but are really taking a fantastic Inter Milan side to the wire in this championship in Serie A. They've been playing some good football. Pioli's got them playing some really nice football, and they've got fans far and wide for the way that they play. We were told by their fans they're going to have a lot of the ball on the rival preview. I think they did have a lot of the ball. I think they said to me that they didn't have a moments team. Like there wasn't a player in there to create a moment. I think we saw Kesse created a moment out of nothing, but that goal wasn't given. But other than that, I still don't think United were that troubled. Yes, you could say AC Milan dominated the game. They had potentially more chances, but did Dean Henderson really do that much? No, he didn't in the grand scheme of things. When it gets to the last minute like that in a game, and I don't think you can blame the substitutions. Ollie had to make changes. He had to rest players and he had to bring on what he could bring on. Naturally, we were going to sit deeper. Naturally, these players weren't able to fill the holes that they needed to fill in that moment. But we still had enough to see that game out. The problem is not the fact that we drew the game in the end, because yes, you might say that AC Milan deserved a draw. You're probably right. You might say that it's not a bad draw to go into the second leg with. But for me, it's how we drew the game. It was a last-minute set piece again. Again.
Yeah.
It's a set piece conceded again. It's just unbelievable. And we're going to get into that in a minute in the reactions to some of the tweets that I've picked out. But it's not acceptable. Like in a big game like this, and there's a consistent theme here. In moments where United need to win games, we can't do it. And people talk about experience. I don't think it is experience. I think it's a lack of quality amongst the whole of the squad. Because at the end of the day, you've got to do more. You've got to keep hold of the ball. It's the basics. United in that last 25 minutes couldn't string together a pass. But we saw as a constant theme throughout the game, even with our best players on the pitch, we still couldn't string together a pass. That's the basics of football. That's you don't teach that. Carthage says it also. That's grassroots. So it's the quality of player. We talk about how good this squad is, where Ollie's at. He should be doing more. Yet the other day, we couldn't put 3 or 4 passes together, any of our players. Yep. Yes, Bruno's going to have moments, not have moments. But do you see where I'm coming from, John? It's just, it's a consistent theme. It's the basics we don't get right in games like this. And it's the way that we concede the goals and lose the game. Look, we drew yesterday. We didn't lose it, but that felt like a defeat. You can't tell that didn't feel like a defeat.
Yeah. When you're in the final moments of the game, and really it's that lack of concentration. Defenders should have done better. Defenders should have, even though we do zonal marking, you still think that, you take it upon yourself. Doesn't matter if you're playing for Sheffield United or playing for Manchester United, you take it upon yourself to do something about it. With the quality we lack, because years of poor investments, and yes, we do get money put into the squad, but we don't get it where sometimes we actually do need it. We lack a lot of balance in the team, and I can't really complain that, you know, yes, Dean probably should have saved that ball, but can you blame one man when there's another 10 more on the pitch? That's the biggest gripe that I have. Like, people weren't tracking men, and you give anybody a bit of space, doesn't matter where it is. You know, you can be punished from inside the 6-yard box, you can be punished from outside the 18-yard box. You know, if you're you know, in La La Land trying to just think that, oh, it's all right, he won't score this. It's the wrong mentality to have, and we need to be more consistent. And like you said, passing is something that you get taught as a kid. Like this, that there's no difference from when you're being taught as a kid to when you're being an established football player in the Premier League. You know, if you're struggling to string passes together, then do you deserve the position that you hold on that pitch? I've had conversations with people, and there's a time and a place where maybe you look at something and go, well, this isn't working. How do I change it? Well, Fergie, when he did that, he brought in the class of 92. And you would literally lose players, you know, professional players that have been playing for years, because there's a young set of lads that will work hard, will put their all in, because they've been given an opportunity to succeed. Like, best example, Diallo. The best part of that game was Diallo coming on, and third or fourth touch of the game, and he's put the ball in the back of the net. We talk saying about Bruno Fernandes. There was a point where Scott McTominay passed him the ball, and Bruno returned the ball, went over the top, and Scott just stopped. Like, it takes the player himself to take it upon himself to do something. And if he carried on the run, he would have connected with the ball. So in a lot of the sense, like, you have a player like Bruno, you need players around him that's going to carry on the run, link up the play. And we clearly haven't got those type of players. And again, this isn't Ollie's fault, because Ollie probably turned around and went, I want Sancho, I want Haaland, I want X, Y, and Z players. The Glazers just go, well, I could give you them, but have you seen this guy? He has not two pairs of legs. He has one pair of legs, and he can run. So
what a player he is with two pairs of legs, by the way.
We could do something like that.
Yeah, we definitely could. By the way, can I just hit on that? You are completely right with that moment of magic by Diallo. That Bruno Fernandes pass was exquisite. It was sensational. And then the header from Diallo was, and the run, by the way, was superb. Yeah. It was a fantastic goal. But again, that moment, a bit like Bruno Fernandes' goal, which was just unbelievable against Everton, the second goal right on the stroke of half time, it's just going to be forgotten about, because it's in the midst of a shit show. And there's no other way to put it. It really is in the midst of a shit show. And no, I'm not pushing blame here onto Ollie. I'm also not calling out individual players. But as a unit, you cannot look at games this season against West Brom, Palace, Sheffield United, Leipzig. What else do we pick out? Even Palace at home, Spurs last night. You cannot look at games like that. I've probably missed another load out, and I'm nearly at the end of my two hands. Chelsea. You cannot pick out games like that as a unit and go, I was happy with that performance, not just as a team, but as an individual. Because when you can't put two passes together, that's not Ollie's fault. That's not the coach's fault. That's an individual thing. When you can't stick with your man, maybe it's an organisation thing, but Matic had the responsibility of Kjaer last night, or Kjaer, whatever you want to call him, just completely lost him. Completely lost him. Like, got nowhere near him, and then you didn't even hear him pushing out, shouting out, saying that he's gone free. Henderson, by the way, there's a lot of blame going into Henderson. I'm not being funny. If I was in goal that day, and it's easy to say De Gea would save that. That's a nonsense argument. If you're Dean Henderson, there is no way on this planet, with that lineup you've got, and the way that the players were reacting to that corner in that moment, from what you can see in front of you, you're expecting a ball to be headed towards goal. I'm sorry, you just don't. Maybe you question him being on his toes, but if you're Dean Henderson, you've got trust in your team to get that away. It was a bullet header in the end that came out of nothing. And it's the way, I'll go back to it, it's the way that we missed out on winning that game last night. That's the problem. That's the core problem. And I can't blame the coaching for that. I can't blame individuals for that. It's a unit thing. It's a quality thing within the whole squad. Again, we're talking about quality of our squad, right? And I was looking at this tier list the other day thinking that the majority of players are good enough to play for Manchester United. I'm sorry, That midfield last night were completely destroyed by Miete and Kessie. Absolutely destroyed. Matic was awful. Fred wasn't great when he came on. McTominay has just not been there recently. We need substantial upgrades. Pogba coming back from injury doesn't fix this. We need best in class in these positions, and then we win games comfortably. Then we can mould a style of play. Right now, we're neither nor like here or there, John. There's no trust at all in us getting this job done anymore. And we went for a run of form, to be fair, John, where we kept getting the job done. And that's where the majority of our points have come from.
Definitely. It's been a frustration with that, because you look at last season where we played more on the counter than we did now. It's like we've kind of been trying to be progressive. And maybe that for the time being isn't what Manchester United need to do, which again kind of falls because of Twitter and media both in themselves. Because if we want to play counter-attacking football, we need to sit in deep, because there's no point of trying to be 10 feet higher up the pitch and think that you're going to counter-attack, because you're not. You're actually more pressing than anything. This is more of an annoyance, because we were pressing against City and then we went and sat back against AC. And in the first half, if it wasn't for luck, they punished us, and they punished us hard. Like, I don't blame Dean Henderson as much. Like, we're in a gifted place to say that we've got a number one keeper that used to be best in class, and then we have a second keeper that's knocking on the door. Not many teams could turn around and go, well, my other keeper would have saved that. It would be more, your first team keeper is your first team keeper, and the other one, is there if your other keeper gets injured. We actually have a point where we have to rotate a keeper, because we wouldn't actually get the opportunity to save that. Like we had the best number two in Romeo. We could have kept with that. We could have probably loaned Dean Henderson out again this season, but we didn't. We chose to keep Dean Henderson in because we're looking to the future. Now, I remember when De Gea first started at Manchester United, he looked god-awful. He looked nervous. He looked like, I think even Rio said it on his own podcast, like he wasn't commanding of his box, and he's not going to turn around and tell two Premier League winning defenders where to be. So, in the sense where Dean's probably in the same situation, there's no Premier League winning defenders on the pitch, but like you're trying to tell someone that's been in the game for an extra 4 years where to be and what to do. Maybe they look at him and go, who are you to tell me what to do? But then again, that ball that came in wasn't an in-swinger where Dean could go, right, I'm claiming that. It was an outswinger. So you run towards the ball. If you are caught in no man's land, you're basically going to lose the chance of saving that ball. Now, you said that Matic should have maybe gone with the man, which I believe he should have done as well. And you've got Harry Maguire, who's meant to be, one of the better defenders in England. Doesn't mean he has blame as well. Like, it's because of this whole thing, like, starts from the Glazers all the way to Ollie. Like, Ollie isn't unblameable. His tactics are the ones that we started with.
But John, we can't blame it like some people are doing. Can we blame him for those subs last night? It was a bare thin squad. He had to take the players off that he had to take off, right? And that was all he could bring on.
Yeah, of course. It's not in regards to the substitutions in the tactics. I mean more to do with the pressing. Like, we did so well against City pressing. We looked like we wanted it and we looked hungry. Like, it's once we beat City and we eaten, we looked like we were full. Like, we looked like we were lethargic. And maybe it was the idea that we knew AC Milan's a bit of a bogey team when it comes to European nights for us. So maybe we looked at that as we need to be a little bit more cautious on the ball, and we were hoping that the players could do those passes and string the link the play. And again, the midfield did look like they were out of their depth, and that to me comes down to recruitment anyway. Now, obviously, having Murtaugh now as our director of football, he's brought in quite a lot of the youngsters, and he has developed some, not him personally, but he's developed the idea of getting the team back to being more youthful and more progressive in time, because the best thing about when we were with 92, that we had years with them. So they were okay, they were good when they first started, and they were the best by the time they ended their time at Manchester United. And maybe that's what we're looking at. But for the time being, players like Matic and stuff like that, for the ideas we want to play, aren't perfect. Now, this is where, you know, Ollie has to take a responsibility, not maybe blame, but, you know, responsibility for where his mentality is with the squad. But then it's trust. Like, does he actually trust 90% of his players to do the job that he's asking for? Now, you get Champions League football like the Glazers wanted, and you needed to invest in Champions League worthy players. But what did we get? Cavani, we got Ahmad, we got Palistri, you know, Tellez looked rusty, like, and maybe that needed to be more rotational during, you know, maybe Dallas games and stuff like that, where, you know, you've taken your best team out and you give them a rest for games like AC. I love Ollie, you know, I support Ollie a lot. And where people bash him, I try to level the playing field and say, well, if you think of it logically, we could do better. And that's obvious because everyone's got their own opinion. I just like to see a little bit more coherency when it comes to everyone on the pitch. Like, it doesn't look like we talk to each other, and like, that's the difficult thing to, as a Manchester United fan, as you were saying, you know, offline, it's not the manner of the loss or the draw, is how we do it. Like, Man United drew games beforehand, Man United lost games beforehand, but 9 times out of 10 when we were playing, it's because we were working that hard that the other team worked even harder than us, and they deserved the win, or they deserved the 1 point, or what have you. You know, we didn't look like that. We looked like we look like deers in headlights, to be fair. Like, we should have took the look that we got in the first half and worked on it, because you don't get 2 goals disallowed and then sit back and think that we can just edge this. We should have just been like, right, well, they're not getting the look, let's turn that look for ourselves. And, you know, you have to make your own look, don't you? And if you don't make that look, then you're just going to sit there like a fish in a barrel, basically. That's what we felt like.
I agree with that. I think we're too easy to play against, way too easy to play against. But you know what really frustrates me? And you mentioned there about Matic. This is a whole different conversation, and I'll say this, and then we'll move on to some of the tweets that I want us to react to, which are slightly more positive, I suppose. Sorry, guys, if this is slightly negative for a Friday, but the result yesterday was a shit show. For me, Ollie played a certain way of football last year that worked with the squad that he had. Now, in the summer, that squad didn't drastically change, but I still feel like Ollie has changed the way that we play without necessarily having the players that we need within those positions. So my example of that is, look at how we started the season, right? We played with a high line that our defence just couldn't get their heads around, and we tried to play a more possession-based game, which is definitely more sustainable for a football team and a football club to have moving forward, because it gives you more of an identity. Counter-attacking football is relying on moments. Ollie, obviously, in his first season as caretaker manager, really thrived off of moments and players being confident and being able to win games by themselves. And that's what happened when Bruno obviously first came in, made such an impact, and continued to happen with that front line. Now, I think at the start of the season, we were struggling to get a moment out of our front line. We were only getting moments out of Bruno and Rashford. So we pushed this high line up to try and allow us to start playing some football, get Bruno on the ball a little bit more, and to dictate the play, to create those moments for other players. I keep coming back to the word moments because we very are a moments team at the moment. Moment. It's literally all I'm saying. But then we went through this really good spell after the Spurs game, all the way up to January, and then I think we've started to stagnate, and you know, and the moments weren't coming, decisions weren't going our way, so to speak. Other clubs, I think, quite fearful of the run that we're going on. We're talking about us publicly, and I do believe that has played a part in some of the decisions that have gone against us as well. I'm not blaming that, though, for the overall part of it. I just don't think that Ollie should have switched it up. I think that Ollie's squad didn't change enough for us to become this passing team or this sustainable, fluid footballing side that he potentially wants to see, that can attack on the break quickly, but can also break teams down with ruthlessness and having that clinical edge. We just don't have that at the moment. And we haven't had that all season. Yet that's what Ollie relies upon in most of these big games, which is why we see these dead rubbers, these 0-0s. Our defence isn't the problem. the style of play isn't, so to speak, the problem. It's the personnel to pull it off, and we haven't got it. So I still don't understand why we're going away from this sucking teams on, becoming a counter-attack football. Because noticeably, John, you would have seen this. At the start of the season, like just at the start of the season and last season after lockdown, notoriously, we didn't turn up for the first 20 minutes of games. We let the other team literally have all the ball and throw everything at us. We used to concede one, but then we'd come back and score three. We used to let a team show us exactly what they could do in that first 10 to 20 minutes. And then we'd start playing football and hitting teams for six, once they get comfortable. Now we try and play from the off. And although I do agree with this slogan, start games fast, if you haven't got that setup to start games fast, for instance, it worked so well against City because they also tried to start the game fast. AC Milan were never going to do that. Also, neither were Crystal Palace. West Ham on the weekend won't do that. You're not giving yourselves an options to express your players to express themselves in the positions that they thrive. So that's my problem here. We're trying to play a system that the players don't suit. We're too slow. We're too rugged. Look, if we didn't have a Matic in the field and we had a Kesse, fuck me, we'd be smashing it. Like, honestly, that kid has got so much flair and excitement and swagger and strength and pace about him, the way he picks the ball up and recycles it quickly. That's what you need. With a Matic, he wants to take 1-2 touches, try and bully his way through and somewhere to go. Fred can't freaking play a pass for the life of him. We haven't got that structure to recycle that ball and move it quickly at the moment. No. And that's why I don't understand our formation and the way we play. But that's for a different conversation. And again, I'll still come back to it. And actually, no, we'll go into it now. Phil Madikins put up this tweet the other day, and I completely agree with it. That's why I think Ollie, so far, despite the negative of not understanding why we're playing the way we are, I still think he's done a brilliant job. It's not perfect, and that's what I mean. He's getting things wrong, and potentially he's going into games slightly naive in that point of view, and is approaching this system and the tactical side of things naive at times. But he has done a brilliant job, because I do agree with this. If he leaves the club in the summer or today, the club would be in a much better position than the one he inherited. I think a big summer, this summer, any United manager thrives off of that, whoever's in charge with us. We need, as soon as we get Sancho in there, as soon as we get a central midfielder in there, we're a different team. Yeah, John, 100%. what do you make of all that, and what do you make of Phil's tweet here?
Yeah, I think Phil got it bang on the money there, because that's the point. Like, when Ollie did come in as caretaker manager, the energy was low, not as in like speed and energy, but I mean like the it just looked flat. We didn't work hard. He had to change the fitness of every single player, which technically, obviously, lockdown helped with that, because they all worked on the fitness while they were stuck at home. So by the time he came back, he could work hard. They could work harder, and it looks a lot sharper. And if he were to leave, obviously, I don't want him to, but if he had to, and someone else did come in, they're going to look at the club in a whole and think that I can work better under the regime that's coming now than under maybe Van Gaal or Jose. And in the long run, that's what we actually needed. We needed to go back to basics of Manchester United. Now, I remember, I say remember like I'm that old, but the idea of Sir Matt Busby, he did it a certain way. We went through loads of managers until Sir Alex Ferguson came in, and Sir Alex said, right, we're going to go back to the way that Sir Matt Busby played, the way that he made the club tick. And that's what I think Solskjaer is trying to do himself. I think he's trying to go back to the old Sir Alex Ferguson way, the old Sir Matt Busby way, because it works for a reason. We were always on top. It might have been only first, second, or third, but we were there and in touching distance. And we weren't in touching distance for a long time. And I feel that if we can take the right parts, as you said, next season, if we could get some signings that would strengthen the first team, would be, first of all, delightful. We're not seeing that in a long while anyway, but I feel that there's something to play for more. Like I always said, there's balance. The balance is incorrect at Manchester United. If we play in a certain way, any team, doesn't matter who it is, all they need to do is make sure their right side of their pitch, our left, is strong. if that's the case, you've nullified Manchester United very easily, because we're not going to switch the play. We're not going to rely on Wan-Bissaka to beat 2 or 3 men and put the ball in the back, at the back of the net, not back of the net, but into the box. That's not going to happen. Like what I think it was against the Palace game, where we had 13% possession on the right-hand side in the first half. That's not how you sort of play a game. You need to move the defense to make.
And by the way, Wan-Bissaka gets flack for that, but that's not his fault. He hasn't had an opportunity to really like mold a relationship with anyone on that right hand side, and he hasn't got that support there. Again, you come back to it. Trent Alexander-Arnold, does he look as good in the Liverpool team with Salah in front of him? I'm sorry, he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. Does he look as good in that Liverpool team with Henderson next to him? Well, we're seeing this now. No, he doesn't. And that's the same with players like Wan-Bissaka, who are quality players. And I'll even go and say it again, Harry Maguire as well. Bringing it forward. Scott McTominay's another one. I still think the guy's got insane talent and a high ceiling. But you need to have the players around you who help. You need help.
Confidence. You need to know that someone is, again, player trust as well. Just not just where Ollie trusts the players need to be, once he's done the pitch, once he's done the team sheet, once he's done the tactics, it's up to you on that pitch to make those tactics happen. If you're not passing that ball 2 meters in front of you, what can Ollie do? Ollie can't just go and put a kit. Actually, to be fair, I probably would put Ollie's in the kit again and again.
I saw what I would do, actually. Yeah.
last 10 minutes. You can do 10 minutes, Ollie. Come on.
I reckon
play a manager.
I'm with you there, though. I completely agree with that. And Phil, I think you're spot on there as well. And it's a good conversation to be able to have, because although look, the result yesterday, I do think was disastrous, because again, the way we missed out on winning that game, it's a consistent theme, and that needs to stop. And that for me is where we need to see progress more, because once we nip this in the bud, we win trophies. It's as simple as that, because it's the big games that we cause situations like this in. And that's the problem, and that's the frustration, and that's the anxiety going forward. And look, you can see it as an Ollie problem. You can see it as a squad player problem. You see it as a coaching problem. At the moment, it doesn't matter individually whose problem it is. It's a problem at Manchester United. It affects the whole club. It affects the fan base going into the game and during the game. So, it's again, it's like a disease. It really is. Once it's there, it's hard to get rid of, and it will just rot away at players and the manager and the coaching staff until it is rectified. And again, John, we're not having this conversation if Maguire scores, if James scores, talking about luck again, if AC Milan could have rolled us over, if those 2 goals had counted and they got the third, like it's a completely different conversation. In the end, we were 1-0 up. We were in control of the game. We were in control of the tie at 1-0. In that game at Old Trafford at home. We should be seeing that out. We didn't. Moving on to this tweet here by Alexei, MUFC Red Army. Talking here about the fact that in 2016, we saw the evolution and the rise to the platform of Marcus Rashford after Martial came off the pitch injured. The same happened at half-time against AC Milan, of course. I'd say on a much bigger level, to be fair, playing against AC Milan or Michelin. What did you make of Diallo's? We spoke briefly about it, but what did you make of his brief cameo? And guys, get in the live chat. Let us know. What did you make of Diallo's brief cameo?
I did. I loved it. That goal was just Hernandez-esque so much, when he'd gone in for the header knowing that he was going to miss it. So he just went backheaded it. But I was just watching it, and I literally screamed. My neighbours must have thought that something was happening to me. Like, I'm surprised, like, I didn't have police knocking on my door going, "We heard a woman screaming." Seriously. And I got a deep voice as well, but I went high pitch. I was like, yes. But that's what we need. Like, it's again the example where Bruno went to pass the ball to Scott and Scott stopped. Like, Diallo didn't. Diallo went, "I'm going to make this run. And if the ball comes to me, brilliant. I'm going to make sure that I get on the end of it. But if the ball doesn't come to me, then I've at least made the run." And that maybe puts him in contention towards actually maybe featuring in the next game. I feel that the width that we lack when Greenwood's on the pitch, like, don't get me wrong, I love Greenwood, but as a right winger, he wants to cut in. And this is the problem for Wan-Bissaka, because he then has no out ball. Like, it reminds me of the David Beckham and Gary Neville. Like, there was that connection where he'd know that Beckham's not going to cut in, so he could give the ball to Beckham, make a run, which then would take a defender to follow Gary, and Becks could easily just take a one touch, whip that ball in, which obviously we don't whip balls in very often with the way that we play, which is a difficulty, but that's what sort of connection we need, because at least then the width would be kept on the pitch, which would mean that the defenders would have to make sure that they are all over the pitch from left to right, rather than being quite packed in the middle to know that we then can't play through, because that's what we're trying to do, is play through a defense that we technically can't do. Now, this isn't Wenger ball where you're having like three touches between three players, like one touch each, and then you, like, the best way I can explain it, the Jack Wilshere goal, where it is touch, and he's in the box and he's just placed it in the back of the net. We want to play it like that, but we haven't got the personnel on the pitch to do so. But Diallo looks like that sort of personnel that he would like to do that. And if Bruno has players like that around where they're going to make that run and carry the run on, he looks 10 times better as well, because he's connected that ball. People say he's wasteful. That's because he's passed the ball expecting someone to go and get the ball, and they go,
yeah, and they don't have the intelligence. That's part of the problem when it comes to quality. Can I also hit on that point you've just made? I think also Amad Diallo made a point last night, because I was one of those that was screaming in the 75th minute, Ollie, you've got nothing to lose. Your front three are playing awfully. Just stick him on. Like, stick him on. He's a fair player. He's got nothing to lose. You know, he clearly has a head in different areas on his shoulders that's above the IQ and the mentality of players his age. And I say that in certain areas because I was a little bit worried yesterday, seeing the way that he sort of tracks back and the way he reads the game, so to speak. He like you expect from a player of his age, his first thought is to go. You know, sometimes you just need to chill out, and sometimes he did chill out, sometimes he didn't, and sometimes he done the opposite and got it wrong where he should have gone and actually tried to chill. So as a player, you've got to evolve, and I don't know if he is ready yet to start a Premier League game. But he has to have the opportunity to. Only then will we know. But I think what he did show is that he can create a moment. And we go back to being a moments team. When something's not going right for any of your starting players, there needs to be someone who can come off the bench. There's no risk attached. Just get them on and they might make something happen. Now, none of us was expecting Amad Diallo to make a run and score a header.
Against a tall man as well. He's like 6'8". The guy's ridiculously big. And
no one was expecting that. Maybe we was expecting Amad Diallo to run, beat 9 players and score a goal like Martial did against Liverpool. No one was expecting that. It goes to show the maturity that he has got in his game and what he has got in his locker. At the end of the day, he's determined and driven. And I think that goal showed it, because I'm not being funny. I'm just putting this out there. A Mason Greenwood now, a Martial now doesn't get in that position. The fact is that 18-year-old Amad Diallo is hungry and he will get in those positions. And I think that's what he showed last night. Something to prove. And I think moving forward, that is really, really important, because we need someone like that coming off the bench. And look, and he will get there. The more experience he gets, the more opportunities he will have to be able to jump on that pitch and make a difference for Manchester United and look towards getting a start. And that's important. Let's just go over to the final tweet. John, Emmanuel here has tweeted, I'm so happy for Amad Diallo for his performance against Milan tonight. Can't believe Kesse was busy showing Fred, Matic and McTominay levels. A quick reminder that Tellez was outstanding while Maguire couldn't head a ball in. Well, let's not talk about Maguire, because I think at the end of the day, when things like that happen, it's like an out-of-body experience. And although we could all say that he should have scored, he didn't. I mean, you can't beat him with a stick with it.
What was funny about that was he hit the ball, before the ball hit the post, he was in the back of the net. How does that happen?
It's a freak incident. It's a freak incident. It will only ever happen once in his career, and it happened last night. And that's the problem with things like that. And we all look at them and try to beat players down with things like that. Again, I'd go back to saying that Dan James's opportunity, like, at least he's a striker. He's a player that thrives on scoring goals. Like, that's one that we should be talking more about, because that's. He should have buried that, Dan James. It's a bit worrying that he didn't. But anyway, I just want to talk about that midfield quickly. What did you make of Kesse last night? He's got a lot of praise. I said it on Twitter. I've seen 2 auditions at Old Trafford this year that I believe should be good enough for us to go out and get those players. One was Jack Grealish when Villa came and visited. I thought he was outstanding. He played like he was on a carpet. And last night, Kesse also did it. I thought he was superb and showed why potentially he should wear a Man United shirt in the future.
If you've got players like Grealish and Kesse in your midfield, you know, you've got yourselves a hard-working midfield, as well as enough grit and determination. I can't say the word. They'll be able to put that shift in that we were looking for, as well as actually connecting the play together, which is something that we lack to do. And I feel that if we went and got Kesse, I would not be mad. Like, we've all been like, who should we get in? There's Ndidi, there's da-da-da, like, but sometimes it's not about having that defensive cover, because we've had quite a few clean sheets. We've done the job where we needed to do, but again, we haven't had that opportunity to put the ball in the back of the net. And as I say, as you were saying, we're a moment team. And if we don't have a moment, then we're just a passenger in a game of football, trying to see the game out. And sometimes, it's a difficult one. Fred Matic, I've been, not say critical, but I've been questioning certain things about them. McTominay, he has levels, like we've seen him like against Leeds, where you give him that moment to run around and create space and be clinical, then he can be. But then again, when he was in the youth, he was a centre forward in the youth. He wasn't even midfield, and he's being placed as a defensive midfielder in our squad under Ollie. When he plays for Scotland, he's playing as defender. He's sort of like a jack of all trades, master at none right now. I feel he needs to master a position, and he'd be a lot more stronger. There's a reason why Sir Alex Ferguson gripped Jose at the Munich Memorial and said, look after that player, because he's clearly got something about him that can be beneficial to the team. Now, am I saying it'll be a first team regular? Probably not. But there's always Darren Fletcher, who brought in when needed, and you could count on him. Park Jae-sung, same. So we do need players like that. And players like Kesse would be an added bonus, and the depth that we need to be able to give players time off. Because with being in Europa League and all this, we haven't got time to do what we want to do. You've got three days in between games to recover. Once we've recovered, we have to analyze the game. Once we've analysed the game, we have to look to the next game. And by the time we've done all that, it is the next game. So we haven't actually had time to work on the team or work on tactics, because...
And that's spot on. Also, City, we applaud them for having their fantastic squad, their fantastic side. That's because they're not scared to have a world-class player in each position, and they're not afraid to take gambles with transfers. And I think in the past, look, the player needs to suit the style. That's important. And I think, again, Grealish, when he was at Old Trafford, showed that he could suit a type of United play and what he would do about it. And the same with Kesse last night. I also thought his ball retention was really, really good. I thought he did play a slight defensive style yesterday that worked. I've always seen him as a bit more of a defensive midfielder, although, again, like you said, going forward maybe a bit better. Can he partner Paul Pogba? Maybe, maybe not. Is the future plan with Paul Pogba in our midfield or not? Time will tell. But I thought Kesse was really, really good last night. And again, we didn't see the best of McTominay last night. Does that mean that he can't be a fantastic United servant? No, it doesn't. McTominay, look, again, it's what we go back to. You thrive off the players around you. If the players around you aren't doing the basics, you're not going to feel like you're playing for Man United. How are you going to feel as a footballer on that pitch? You're only as good as the players around you. There's anomalies like Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo, Messi, who can really bring teams forward and push them up. But again, we saw last night, Bruno Fernandes did that with us for that one world-class moment through to Diallo, and Diallo scored that goal, which was a bright beacon in a dark storm, let's be honest.
Of course, yeah.
But the team didn't see it out and do enough to see it out. And for me, that's a lack of quality across the board, because we're Manchester United and we need to do better than that. And we're going to leave it there, John. I hope that's all right. Thank you guys for joining. That was superb. John, thank you for coming on. Hopefully we're going to see a lot more of you on All for United. Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe. We're going to be back Monday. We'll be doing another Twitter React show after the West Ham game. And look, I said this going into the game against AC Milan, off the back of the win against Manchester City. This is the problem, and this is where my frustration is as a United fan. I do not know what United side are going to turn up against West Ham Sunday evening. I should be excited for the game.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
Manchester United. It literally is. I have no idea. And that's the frustration for me. I love watching my team play. I get excited watching my team play. I'm going to be in a completely different mind frame, by the way, by Sunday. So scrap this for then. But still, right now, I'm absolutely frustrated and not the slightest optimistic of going, or so to speak, going or having West Ham at Old Trafford and us winning the game. That's the problem, because we don't show up in these big moments. West Ham are a good team. They're a hard team to play against. If you want to know more about that game, watch the preview Q&A tonight with Joe at 10 o'clock. Remember, you can win Football Town apparel on our show Saturday night. So come and join us. We're giving away an iconic number 7 Red Devils jersey. Just subscribe, put on your notifications, and join us 10 o'clock Saturday night when we'll be doing the AFU Uncut podcast. So do not miss that. John, thanks again, mate. Guys, stay safe out there. And we will be back Monday with the United Daily. Ciao for now.